My whole hike down this hill, I'm thinking through my head, man, did I get it? Did I drop it right there? Did I wound it? The last thing I want to do is wound this amazing animal. Again, going back to ethics. So I'm hoping either clean miss or I pretty much drop the thing right there. So I'm walking down, heading to where I felt like I was aiming from where I was sitting. I finally get down to pretty much where I feel the elk was when I broke that shot, coming out from behind this tree. And I'm looking around, not seeing anything. Obviously, all the elk are gone. I'm not seeing any blood, and I'm not seeing a big bull elk. So I'm like, man, did I clean miss this thing? Last thing I want to do is go chasing after this animal somewhere out here. And my buddy, when he loaned me a rifle, he's like, dude, take this rifle when you go elk hunting. Like, if you're in a wind mag, like you hit it, you will anchor it on the spot. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe this guy cut his anchor. So at this point also, people up on top, I can see the Jeep pulled up to the edge and there's a couple people looking down. So I'm like, all right, well, I feel like the bulls, at least two bulls, were kind of maybe over this way some. I'm gonna go check over here. About 30 yards kind of downhill in this little depression by the big tree, I end up seeing this big bull elk. I say big because I'm not used to seeing elk. And I'm like, no way, I got this guy. And so I look back up the hill, I'm like, I got him! Because they're waiting to find out if they'd heard the shot, came over to see if I got anything. They're like, woo, cheering me on, super excited for me. At this point, I'm like, super excited. So I end up running back up the hill, ditch my rifle, grab my knife, grab a couple headlamp, couple other flashlights. I know I'm gonna be down here for a while. The sun's just set. And this couple up there, this gentleman and his wife, they're like, hey, do you need any help? And I'm like, well, this being my first elk, probably. So this guy ends up grabbing his backpack, his tools, a couple hatchets, and we all start heading back down the hill. This guy helps me out so much. So here I am, super patient with me too. I end up gutting this thing and it's like, well, let's see if we can move it. Nope, impossible. Thing's not moving. So I'm like, well, how best should we proceed? Like, I will default to your experience. Guy's harvested like 13, 14 elk. So he's like, well, usually try and not quarter them. I actually like to try and half them if I can. So I'm like, let's do this. So I end up halving this thing like behind third, fourth rib, get this thing in two different pieces. At which point, pretty much turns into like the worst CrossFit style workout ever. It's like, oh, hey, partner workout. We have these 2 bags of sand that each weigh about 300 pounds. Need you guys to, as a team, drag them both up this hill. Miserable. I should probably note, a round went through both lungs and pretty much blew up the heart. So we end up leapfrogging these halves of an elk up this hill right here. I ended up blazing it later, about 185 yards to the top, to the road. And finally we get far enough to where we think we can make it. So his wife ends up spooling out the winch all the way from his Jeep, attaching a tow cable to that, bringing that all the way down. And then, fortuitously, they had just found this like 150 foot like logging rope out in the woods earlier that morning while elk hunting. Attached all those together, strung it down as far as we could, and we're like, that's the goal. Basically drug it up till we could get there. At that point, tied this thing off, both of them together, and pretty much started going the rest of the way under the power of the winch, dodging all of these tree stumps, random deadfall, a mess. So from the minute I broke that shot, it was about 3 hours till we got the thing back up top. Finally, getting the elk back up to the road, we're looking at my vehicle and it's like, this isn't gonna work, especially with a platform I have built into the back of it. Like, we're gonna have to basically chop this elk up into little pieces and my vehicle's gonna turn into like a butcher wagon. So Guy's wife ends up taking their Jeep, going into town, bringing back their truck. Meanwhile, he and I are hanging out. Amazing fall night, incredible stars, not freezing cold. And we end up loading this. She gets back, we load this thing into the back of the truck, caravan back down into town, and he helps me unload this thing into my garage. By this point, it's probably like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I spend the next couple hours skinning this thing out in my garage, and then finally get it hung up and age it for 3 or 4 days. Buddy comes over, we end up processing it all, get it packaged, get it frozen. Amazing. All in all, an incredible experience on so many levels. One, admittedly, woefully unprepared to successfully harvest an elk, admittedly. But this worked out better than I could have possibly imagined. Like, incredible on so many levels. One, on just my luck out here, first time hunter hunting elk. And two, just on like a humanity level. Like the fact that there's actually good people out there that will, without any investment, like pretty much volunteer a large portion of their time and a lot of work for something and someone they don't even know. Like, that was amazing and pretty amazing experience. But hope you guys appreciated this, and as always, thanks for joining us at KidBadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.